Okay, so again, this is unscripted, but you just kind of walked into the second question that I had, which is where we wrap up. But I think this is going to be huge because you said something which, as a male in this field, right? I'm sure I have not paid as much attention as I should have, right? And so for me, this is also the ability to learn, right? So one of the things I kind of are looking for right now is something that is actionable, right? So you can have a structure in place and actually kind of put this as part of the mental exercise, if you will, like every single day. So this is something that I picked up from the chief security officer at Synopsys, Deidre Hanford, and she had put this 37-second video that talked about like, how do you approach the workplace and make it more inclusive, right? And there were 4 things that she talked about: moving the needle, identify groups where diversity is lacking, right? Just kind of look around and say, hey, what is missing, right? Are we missing people of color? Are we missing youngsters? Are we missing women? I mean, what is it? And just the first piece. The second is, and again, I never did this, so looking for a diverse candidate pool. So when you do get sets of resumes, again, back to Milica, what you were saying is, hey, does he or she have this background? Is she from this university? Do they have this certifications? Versus saying, hey, we got to go broader. Third thing was, and this was something that I found like really compelling, which is slow down to speed up, right? You finish a meeting, it's after a while you have group think. Can you get one outside voice to actually comment on that, right? So actually slowing down to speed up. And the last piece, again, this is something okay, you again spoke to, which is, are you practicing inclusive behaviors? When the meeting ends, if somebody hasn't spoken up, or like you said something that went over people's head, they didn't respond, as a leader, as a manager, are you going around the room, spending that extra 5 minutes at the end and making sure everyone gets heard, right? So for me, I mean, these are the kind of things that you can actually put into action. So Milica, I will continue with you, which is, you mentioned something about being intimidated, being that minority in a room full of men. What have you seen in terms of organizations that have been able to move the needle forward so that it actually ends up not just becoming a tick box of, hey, having a person of minority on the board of the company and say, hey, we are diverse, versus actually making sure the culture of the company actually starts to move forward?
That's a great question. Many organizations, and I was lucky to work with the other side, but many organizations just check off the box. They hire a woman or hire, African American or hire whatnot, just to check off the box to be diverse. But what really is actually practicing that from the leadership. It has to come from the top. If you embed that as part of your core values, and you say, this is what we really value, we want to make sure that everybody's heard. We want to make sure that we include people from a different background. We want to promote innovation. We want to promote thinking outside the box, different opinions. That's what's important. If you start with that, you really have a chance of building something amazing. All your meetings should start with kind of communicating. Okay, this is the problem. I want everybody to bring one piece of the solution to it. Something, just bring anything, just brainstorm, right? There's no wrong answer. You always need to start with that, right? And not start meeting and be like, okay, here's the problem. I think this is the solution. You're not getting anywhere with that, right? Like if one person that created a solution is trying to solve it, good luck, right? And you have to have those different opinions. And even though you might not like them, they are really good for your company.
Yeah, it's also, to your point, it also takes a kind of leadership awakening to be able to, in fact, somebody had posted this on LinkedIn the other day and found it so compelling, which is, when was the last time that somebody actually disagreed with you? And it just stuck in my head, because if you're creating inclusive, when people are comfortable, like to your point, to coming and say, hey, I don't think that makes sense. It's like, that's success, right? And so for me, it was those kinds of things.
Absolutely. You need someone to challenge you. You need someone to make you think differently. If you're constantly thinking the same way, you're wiring and firing the same circuits in your brain, you're not learning anything new, right? So you definitely have to have that diversity in a workplace.
I think that kind of goes hand in hand. It's diversity of thought, right? So it's like Absolutely. People have different lived experiences because of who they are. And then that also leads to diversity of thought, which can lead against groupthink.
Right.
So Meghan, continue forward. I mean, what have you seen work, not work in organizations large and small?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that kind of ties in with something you were mentioning, Ashwin, is this idea of sharing the mic. So really being cognizant of in meetings, who is leading them? How often are we having different people lead them? How are we rotating that? How are we rotating leadership roles within the organization? How are different projects being dispersed? Is it that people say, hey, I want to do something, or is it given out to people? So all of that kind of delegation of leadership, and where is the representation within that, I think is really important to pay attention to. And then when there are those speaking points, like who is speaking, like the whole sharing the mic piece to it. I know Joel Emerson's done a lot of work on bias mitigation. And so one of her big things also is, awareness is great, right? We need to be aware. We need to be aware that there's biases. We need to be aware that inclusion is something we should all work towards. But then what do we do? Do people speak up when they notice that, like, let's say there is a room and you are the only woman in the room and it's a group of men, and then a client comes in to visit, and then he assumes that the client assumes that the woman is the administrative assistant, but she's actually the lead on the meeting. What do your colleagues say? How does the team respond? That's really important, because if everyone's just quiet and no one says anything, that is kind of a part of your culture, right? Like no one's correcting. Like maybe the woman's not correcting that she feels embarrassed. The colleagues, maybe they noticed or didn't notice, but that is something really to pay attention to. Like if the woman is the one leading the project, if someone else is the one leading the project, and they are assumed to be the person who's supposed to get coffee, and that's not their role. It's fine if that's your role, but if that's not their role, then, and no one says anything, that can be a problem, and that should be something that should be worked on, is something actionable.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Add on to that, I think, from the entrepreneur angle, right? When we are conducting meetings every day and, going through and working with our teams, I personally think that, okay, I have my positives and I have my negatives. I understand that from the get-go and try to get people who can, add on and add value to the conversation, right? I mean, if I'm going to just kind of take over, like Milica said, that, say, okay, here are the problems and here are the solutions and here, go do it, then I think we are definitely, curtailing thoughts. And also, I think the other angle I would say is women to also speak up. A lot of times I think women feel like, they're second guessing even in their mind. Are my thoughts really valid? Does this make sense? It doesn't matter. I think if we were to compare men and women, I think men, would just shoot straight. But women go through so many iterations even within their mind before they, even express their opinion. And I think women need to get comfortable and confident enough so that, these are my thoughts. What do you think? Just put it out on the table. If it's stupid, that's perfectly fine. We can, no one's going to, argue about this stuff. So I think we also, as women, need to get to that level of self-confidence and just speak up in a gathering. And only then I think we can really move forward.